Scientists have been experimenting on fruit fly embryos in the very embryonic stage, and they try and divert these fruit fly embryos to try and get them to become something else. And it turns out that the embryos always make heroic efforts to get back on track. We try and take them this way, and they go, no, I gotta become a fruit fly embryo. I gotta become a fruit fly. And what scientists get is they get one of three possible outcomes. They get a normal fruit fly, they get a mutant fruit fly, or they get a dead fruit fly. They don't even get a horse fly, much less a horse. Why? Because an embryo is goal-directed. A fruit fly embryo is goal-directed to become a fruit fly. With all our intelligence, we can't divert these things, yet atheists are telling us that non-intelligent processes can divert these things and have them become other kinds of animals. Nonsense. The world is goal-directed. If it's goal-directed, there must be a mind behind it. Now, who thought of this first? You know who thought of this first? Aristotle. Aristotle, 400 years before Christ, said nature's goal-directed. He called it final causality. There's a final goal, a final target that things are heading toward. It's sometimes called teleology. We'll talk about this tonight. There's design in the universe. And when you're thinking, it's called intentionality. Like, for example, this morning, you intended to come to church. That's why you're here. You had a goal-directed thought. And in fact, as you're sitting here right now, regardless of what you're thinking about, I hope you're thinking about what we're talking about, but I know maybe you're not. Regardless of what you're thinking about, your thoughts are goal-directed. And they depend on a series of goal-directed processes over which you have no control. For example, you're having a free will thought right now, whatever that is. In order for you to have a free will thought right now, the neurons in your brain have to be acting properly. In order for the neurons in your brain to act properly, the atoms that make up the neurons have to act as they do, consistently and reliably. In order for the atoms to act consistently and reliably, the natural forces, the four natural forces we know about, the strong and weak nuclear forces, gravity and electromagnetism, have to do what they do repeatedly and reliably. Now, are any of these things conscious here? Well, what causes the natural forces to do what they do? That's the big question. You know what Aristotle said? The unmoved mover. We would say the external intellect is God. In fact, Aristotle said it was the unmoved mover that did it. Paul comes along and says, it's God, it's Yahweh that does it. All these goal-directed forces that are happening right now as you sit here are being directed toward an end by an external intellect. In fact, Paul put it this way: Christ is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Paul goes up on Mars Hill in Athens. If you've ever been to Athens, you know where that is. Right where Aristotle surely was 400 years prior. And Paul says this: in Christ we live and move and have our being. He's actually quoting a Cretan philosopher or prophet, a Cretan philosopher who said, in Zeus we live and move and have our being. But Paul takes that and he says, no, in Yahweh, in Christ, we live and move and have our being.